Hey, what's up and welcome. This is Matthew Msingati, the designer and developer. This is my YouTube channel, Coded Design, where I teach coding and user interface design. Some time ago, I did this Apple Music clone. As you can see, this is the user interface, and also this is how far I have went with it. Okay, so in this video I'm just going to teach you how I have done only this section of the user interface. Okay, so as you can see here, if the search input is empty, there is nothing showing up right here, but as soon as you type something, there is this clear button where you can clear the input. So that is all. So this is the only part that I'm going to show you how it works. Okay, let me just give you a brief about the framework and platform that I'm using. Behind the scene, I am using Next.js and React.js. So I hope you are familiar with React.js, but Next.js is some sort of an extension of React.js. It does all the things that React.js doesn't do, or doesn't some sort of expand to. So you can treat it as Next.js as a bigger container that contains React.js. It just offers all the things that React.js doesn't do. But when we explain in the code, I will get into details to that. So without wasting time, let's just jump straight into the code and explain. Okay, so this is the code. Okay, so in the code I've got a folder called fragments, and in this folder I store all my fragments. Okay, in terms of this name fragment, this is not some sort of an industry name or a special name. This is just a name that I am using to refer to any self-contained component, meaning that a component that stands on its own, or can be easily copied from this code or from this project to another project. So the word fragment means that, and it's also just a name I came up with. So as you can see, I've got a lot of fragments. So what are fragments? Fragments are just certain portions of the user interface. For instance, this is a fragment, and also this part, it's a certain fragment. This header, it's a fragment. So the fragment that we're looking for at the moment or now, it's the search fragment. Okay, so now let's just jump to the search fragment and try to explain it line by line and what it does. Okay, so in this search fragment, on line number 1, it says use client. What is this line doing and what is it for? Okay, as I've explained before, that Next.js extends React.js, so it offers some interesting and unique features that React is not offering. Okay, so when it comes to Next.js, as you know that React.js, it's a framework, a modern JavaScript framework for building fast and simple user interfaces, web and mobile user interfaces. Obviously, it only operates on the client side of things, meaning that it operates on the browser. Now Next.js comes and say, okay, we can be able to process JavaScript in the front end and at the same time in the back end. For instance, we've got a server that serves this page. JavaScript normally and usually runs on the browser, which is on the client side of things. However, because now there is Node.js, so meaning that it is possible to run JavaScript on the server side of things, meaning that on the server that serves this page. Now Next.js comes in to say we can be able to render user interfaces on the client side of things, that means on the browser, as React is doing. And at the same time, what React doesn't do, it doesn't render the user interface in the back end. Why is Next.js going to you render some user interface in the backend in the server and just populates it here. Number one, on the server, it's easier for it to quickly integrate things like database information, link a lot of things, get information from different APIs, and then when it renders that to the client, it's already a package and everything is here, instead of some sort of letting the client to render those. So with that being said, Next.js here, you have to tell Next.js that you are going to use client. What does this mean? It means that this page, it's going to be some sort of rendered here on the browser, not on the server. So that's what that means. It means that this page will make use of some React features or some features of the client side of things. So this is what this means. So by default, Next.js files, if you don't use this use client, by default this page will run on the server. So all Next.js pages, they are running on the server unless you specify this use client. Now Next.js will be aware that you are going to use some sort of client features or client code, things like when you click something here, then obviously you will call a certain function, which is some sort of what can I say, event listeners. So these events, obviously they are not available on the JavaScript that runs on the server, because the server has got nothing to do with the actual user interface. I hope that one is clear. So because we are going to use some event listeners, so we need to explain or tell Next.js that we are going to use client. Okay, so here we are just importing some use states, and also we are importing icon fragment from fragments. These one I will explain them as I am continuing with the page. So what we are going to do now, let's quickly jump to the HTML first. Okay, and then the HTML in this case, it's like our JSX. Okay, so as you can see, this file, it has got a .jsx intention. What is a .jsx intention? A JSX is a combination of HTML and JavaScript. It's more like they are blended in together for efficiency and better performance, meaning that you write HTML without caring much about how it integrates or how JavaScript will some sort of query some IDs and classes, and how that JavaScript is going to manipulate that HTML. So it's just a combination of HTML and JavaScript for better performance and efficiency. Okay, so now let's just push my fan. It's making a noise. I hope that doesn't affect us that much. Okay, so now let's just see how is this fragment being rendered. As you can see, in this fragment we've got this HTML input, and after that we've got this icon, we've got this placeholder, which is search, and when you type we've got this clear button, and that's it. Okay, so how is this fragment being rendered? Okay, so with React.js, okay, you must have a function that will be returned. Okay, meaning that this is our function. Okay, this function is called what? Is called search frag. As you can see, it's just a normal function. Okay, where does this function ends? This function ends here. Okay, so this function is responsible for rendering this fragment. Okay, so everything that happens inside this function, it's rendering this fragment. When you are done creating that function that will render the fragment, which is JSX, which is the JavaScript mixed with HTML, you must export it. It's like you are making it visible. It's like if you don't have this export, there will be an error. It's like you are not returning it back. Okay, so with that being said, you just create a function. Sorry about that. You just create a function. You call this function search_frag. This function will render the HTML for you. So let's quickly skip this part for now. Okay, let's just quickly skip this part for now. Okay, and then we're going to start here. Okay, so inside this function you must have return. Inside this return you will have, like, you will open your bracket, and in this bracket this is where you are going to return your HTML. Okay, now what we are going to do, we're just going to do some small test. Okay, we are going to delete this. Okay, and then from then we are going to create an h1 tag. Okay, and then say test. We are going to write test here instead, inside this function that renders the search frag. So let's just go to our user interface, and then as you can see here, now we've got test. Okay, so this h1 tag is just a plain HTML. Okay, but now since it's mixed with JavaScript, then you are going to see things like these. Okay, for instance, instead of a class on normal HTML, here on JSX, which is React JSX, you are going to see class name. Okay, and also other things that you are going to see, curly brackets in between, things that are not available on HTML. And also here, these are event listeners or event function. As you can see here, this is just on click. I think on pure JavaScript you don't have to put that as a capital letter. You can put a small letter C here. So there are some changes or differences to your normal HTML. Hence this is called JSX. Okay, a mix of JavaScript and HTML. Okay, so now that we have seen that, okay, our user interface is going to render the search input again. Now let's just look at all the HTML elements. Okay, so we are returning number one with JSX or with React. Okay, you must always return some sort of single element. Okay, meaning that you can't have like element 1 and at the same time have element 2, let's say p tag and element 2 like this. You are supposed to wrap all these elements, let's say like this. As you can see that now these elements, group of elements, they are inside these elements. Okay, the same thing applies here. The reason why we are having a lot of errors is because we are returning more than one element. And which are those elements? These elements as a div and this one. Okay, let me delete this one. So how did we solve that problem? As you can see here, we've got this element as this element, okay, this empty element, this one and this one. This fragment helps us on grouping all elements together, so that when we are exporting this JSX, we export it as one element, as you can see. So this is the parent element. So if we can have another element here, we are going to get an error. Okay, as you can see, because we are returning more than one element. So it's this one that I've deleted and this one. What if maybe we can remove this one and just render a div here as a parent element? Okay, let's delete this one. That means now we have more elements that we are returning, so we need to return one parent element. We take this closing tag and we put it here. As you can see, everything works fine because we've got this outer parent element, and it's only one element, and this is React want us to do things this way. This is one of those things that you just have to take them as they are. As you can see, we don't have a problem there. So this one, I'm just going to leave it as it is, okay, as it is for now. Okay, so now that we've got this outer element that houses everything, now let's see, we've got some sort of an outer container again, which its class name, its input wrapper. Okay, so this input wrapper wraps everything. Okay, it's the one that makes it possible for this icon to be here, because it's this icon is positioned relative to this invisible wrapper. Okay, and then we've got this one is an input wrapper, and then we've got an icon wrapper. Let's see where it ends. Okay, this icon wrapper wraps around the icon, which is this icon. It wraps around this icon. Okay, now you are going to see some sort of an HTML element that is not available in your normal HTML. As you can see, a div is something that you are used to, but the icon frag as an HTML element, it's something that you are not used to. The reason is, it's because it's not a normal HTML element, it's a React.js element or component. Okay, where is this component? Okay, this is a component that we have created like it's our own unique created element. Okay, so remember I told you that I'm going to come back and explain more about this import. Okay, so now what we are doing here, we are importing this icon fragment from fragments. So meaning that we've got a fragment called icon fragment that helps us to add icons in our user interface. Whenever we add icon in our user interface, we use the icon fragment, the one that we have created it our own. Okay, as you can see, the icon fragment itself, it has got image from next image, which is Next.js image, and then from then, as you can see in that image, it will have as a source, okay, any image that we pass to it, which is the image name. So this is just like a function that says, give me an image name or the icon name, I will render that icon accordingly. And also you can give me the size of that icon, and then I will render it. So this does that only. Okay, don't save. Okay, so now this is icon frag, we want to be on search fragment. Okay, so now here what we have, we've got an icon fragment, the one that I've explained about. Now we need to always put this attribute, the icon name, so that the icon fragment, this one, can know which icon to render. Okay, it's going to render a search icon, and we want the height of 12. Okay, so the class name, we want this to be search icon. So as you can see, this green component, or this green, let's call it HTML element, is not really an HTML element, it's a React.js component, and it's the one that we have created it our own. Remember I talked about self-contained elements. Okay, that's the idea here. So what React is doing, it's like taking everything, make it a component on its own. This help with reusability, as you are going to see that we've been using this icon fragment a lot in this user interface in this project. Okay, so that helps us on code reusability, and also I think with managing things, having a clean code in a way, because if I've got a problem with the search fragment, I will only come here to the search fragment and try to see what is the problem. Okay, so that is it about this one. And then we've got the actual input. This is a normal HTML input. Okay, as you can see, it ends here. Okay, as you can see, the type of it is a text input. This is a class name. Obviously this class name I've used CSS to style it accordingly, and then on change, obviously this is the event listener. Okay, so on change, whenever this change, we are going to do something, which is we are going to show this clear button based on certain conditions. Okay, so this is that we are going to change, or we are going to show that clear button based on certain conditions, and this is the placeholder search. So if we make this search holder -1, as you can see, this is just normal HTML. Suppose that will be updated here, as you can see. Okay, so let's just undo and save. Okay, and then from there we've got this id input x. Obviously this is this one, the clear button, this one, so that you can clear here. Okay, so this is that button here. Obviously now you are starting to ask yourself, what are these curly braces for, and whatever, and set input. That one I will explain it now once I'm done with this HTML or the mockup aspect of it. Okay, and then again we have also icon frag. That means we are using this icon fragment again. This is called reusability, meaning that now we are telling it the icon name that we want. It's X, it's an SVG, and we want it to have a height of 5, and then the class name will be search icon. So I think this is some sort of a clear structure or a clear mockup. Okay, so this is this outer container. It ends here, as you can see. Let me just save everything. This is outer container, and this is the, let's just call this HTML mockup, even though it's JSX. Okay, so enough about that. Now let's go to the functionality of it. Okay, let's go to the functionality of it. When I'm pressing something here, this appears, but when this is empty, this disappears. Okay, now let's go to the on change event. Okay, this is the input, normal HTML input, and this is the on change event. So this means that please listen for any changes on this input. As you can see, whatever, when we do something, that event, there is an event listener that will do something based on what is in here. Okay, so this is React.js. Okay, as you can see here, this code is very small as compared to your normal JavaScript. Okay, this is very small because it's HTML, which is these ones, normal HTML, but it has been combined with JavaScript, as you can see on change, and these curly braces. Usually on normal HTML you don't get these curly braces. Okay, so whenever something happens on this text input, what we want to do, we want to call this function visibility check, and that is it. So what we want to do now, let's go and check on this visibility check. Okay, here is this visibility check as a function. Remember, I have skipped this part, and I told you that I'm going to explain it as we are getting on it. Now we are on it. Okay, so this is a function, this is a normal function, but however, as you can see, it takes as a parameter the event. Okay, so obviously if it takes as a parameter the event, you know, that event variable carries everything that is happening in this search input. Okay, for instance, what has been passed there as a value, and all other things that we can use as we wish. Okay, so as soon as we trigger this, okay, so every information about this on change event, and also about this input, where the event is coming from, or where the input that triggered the event, all that information is being received here as a parameter. Okay, so the first thing that we do, we set input value as event.target.value, meaning that this, with this method .target on .value, we can get the value that was pressed there. Okay, and we take that value and we set it to set input. Okay, so obviously, as you can see here, if it's set input and it has got some brackets, okay, and also it has got some parameters, one might feel like this is a JavaScript function, of which you will be correct to a certain degree. You are correct if it's a function, but remember, since we said this file, it's a JSX file, meaning that it's a combination of HTML and JavaScript. Obviously, the syntax of just JavaScript has been some sort of modified and manipulated to serve a certain purpose. So hence you are going to see function like these, but they have been declared in some sort of a funny or a different way. Okay, what do I mean by funny and a different way? This is a function that we are calling, which is visibility check. When you go to the function definition, you can see there is function. That means we're defining it, and the function is visibility check and is taking some parameters. But however, this set input function has not been defined like this normal JavaScript function. It has been defined as some sort of a constant, and here is it. You see this set visibility, this function that we are calling where this set input function that we are calling here, passing this event.target.value. Here is it. It has been declared here as some sort of an array or a value in an array. We've got an input val and we've got that function. Okay, then it is equal to use state. Okay, now for simplicity's sake, let's just quickly go back. So whenever I type here m, okay, obviously this on change method is being triggered, and then what it will do, it will go to visibility check. Okay, and then once we go to visibility check, it carries all the details of that event, and then we will just take that m and replace it. Let's say here there will be m as we have typed. Okay, so meaning that we are just using this function and we are passing this parameter. Okay, now we need to go to this use state. Okay, as we have some sort of indicated here to our Next.js to say that we are going to use client. Okay, that's where we can be able to use some sort of the use state. We can input use state from React, because the use state component or some sort of functionality, it's only available in the client aspect. It's not available on the server. So do you see why we have to specify that we are going to use a client? Some sort of way we need to declare or indicate here we're going, because once you put this, then meaning that these some sort of UI or front end or client side functionality will be available. But if you don't, by default this will be a server. This JSX will run on a server. So let's delete this use state and try to run this and see if we are not going to get an error, because we are trying. As you can see here, we get an error. We get an error because we are saying this JavaScript, the whole JavaScript, is supposed to run in a server. Remember, a server doesn't have some user interface, some sort of functionality, because a server doesn't have a UI. A server is not something that we interact with, just like here. This is the client side of things and we can interact with it, but a server is the aspect that we don't see. So that aspect doesn't have some sort of functions for the user interface. Hence it throws an error when you don't use this use client. Okay, So where were we? Okay, I was explaining that we are importing useState from React. What is useState? UseState, it's like, let's say it's like some sort of JavaScript functionalities that are some sort of grouped together. It's like imagine like some sort of a JavaScript module that we use in order to some sort of monitor the change in our HTML. Okay, traditionally when something happens on the HTML, you will use JavaScript to listen for this event. Once that has happened, once this event has been triggered, you will use JavaScript to get that information using a function, and you will perform whatever that you want to perform. Okay, now React is coming to say that that's a lot of work for the developer. Can't we mix HTML and JavaScript and come up with simple way of doing things? Instead of you doing that on your own, we can do that for you. How can we help you? How can React help you to do that? You are going to import useState from React, and then from then you are going to declare a constant, which is this one, because we are looking at this one. You are going to declare a constant of an array. Okay, as you can see, this is the item number 1 of this array, and the item number 2 will act as that function. Okay, and then that is equal to useState. So meaning that all the JavaScript that you were going to run has just been taken care of only by this statement. Okay, now let's get to the fundamental and the core of React. Okay, what you were going to do using JavaScript, what is that? Whenever you click here, you were going to take this item, or you were going to listen for this event. You take this value and do something with it. Now React is saying you are not going to use your pure vanilla JavaScript, even though you can when you want to, but because of we have taken care of that functionality using that useState. Now what we are going to do as React, we are going to look for any changes that are happening in the user interface, any changes, and then we are going to react to those changes. Obviously, I understand for now this might be confusing, but now I'm going to be a little bit slower and go to the code and explain to you how does React react to the changes that are happening in the DOM. Let's just go back for some time, take a deep breath, and then explain things slowly again. Okay, remember this is where we were. Whenever you change, this set visibility function is being triggered. This is just a normal JavaScript function. Okay, this is that function. However, that function gives us some sort of more event details. Okay, those event details, we are able to extract the value that has been inserted by the user. In our case, let's say we have typed just one M. Okay, an alphabet M. Okay, we're able to then because we want to some sort of listen to the changes. Okay, we are going to use this some sort of functionality, which is useState. You know, once something it's a state, meaning that it's bound to change. It can change from state 1, state 2 to another state to another state based on whatever reasons. Okay, so now let's check this React fundamental or core use, and also this state thing. Okay, let's say we have declared an input value. Okay, this value is a variable, and we are going to monitor this variable. This variable is more of a state. Why it's a state? Because it will change. Okay, what will change this variable? Obviously, when something happens here, this value will change. So this value is more like a state. Okay, we are going to take this variable and put it somewhere in our code, in our HTML. As you can see, here is it. Okay, so meaning that once this value changes, okay, the whole DOM element, which is the input element, needs to re-render, and this is the only element that will re-render. Okay, this is what I mean. So if we click here, okay, if we click there, what will happen is this check visibility will be triggered, and then through this set input value, this function here, what does this function do? It changes this value here, this variable, meaning that once this variable changes here, it automatically also come to our input value, and where it is, remember it's here on value, where it is, it's going to change also. Okay, meaning that it's going to change also here. Okay, as you can see, it updates. So React looks for any changes in the DOM, and it will re-render this component, the one that has got changes. That's the core fundamental of React. Okay, meaning that as we have this user interface, if something changes here because of we have clicked here, okay, React doesn't render all these elements, something like this, as a traditional HTML, which is this whole page will load. Okay, what React will do will re-render only this element. So meaning that now that improves the performance, because we are not re-rendering all the UI element. Hence React, it's a user interface framework. It's a UI framework because it brings some performance improvement in your normal HTML, and it's very quick. As you can see here, we are rendering multiple images, but they are just loaded like instantly. Okay, so that's what is happening here. So whenever you click this visibility check, we are running this function. Where is it? This function visibility check, and then from then we are calling this set input val, which is this function here. What does this function do? It sets m to this input value. Okay, then once we change this input value, it's automatically changed even where it is here. Okay, it's automatically changed where it is here. Here is it. So this value, it's here on input. Okay, so now let's just pretend that this visibility check will just assign any value that is here. Okay, for simplicity. Okay, so let's see. On our input, it's a text input. It has got a class name. This one is for CSS, and there is an event listener on change. So once this has changed, that means this visibility check will take that m and assign it to this value. Okay, so as it assigns it to this value, we need to check if is this value, the one that is being assigned here to value, is it empty or it has got something. Okay, so this is a ternary operator. A ternary operator is more like a simple or a summarized if else statement. So this is a full qualifying if else statement, this one. Okay, so if there is something in here, displayed as it is. If there is something here, this question mark is asking if there is something here, display it as it is. If there is nothing, maybe it's null, just display empty. Obviously this one might not be that clear, but it's going to be clear as time goes by. So that's what is happening here. Okay, so the value will be empty. Okay, so let's just go on to this input x, which is this one. Okay, which is this one. Okay, this one. Okay, and then in this one also as an HTML element that is there. Okay, we also need to know if in terms of a class, because once we go to the class we can use CSS class, meaning that once, let's say, we have a class which is called hidden, once this class is added here in this row, this whole item will be hidden. Once it's removed, this whole item will be removed. Okay, so meaning that we've got this variable which is visibility, that will be, it's either hidden or nothing, that means or empty or not hidden, in a way the opposite of hidden. So it's either we are going to have hidden here or we are not going to have hidden. But then how do we have this variable as something that we are going to keep track of? That means we are going to keep track of its state. Okay, so it means that we also have to declare here also another state variable. Okay, that state variable is visibility, and then it has got a function that will be responsible for setting its visibility. By default, this variable has got hidden in it. This is React.js. Okay, why this code is like this is more like not easy to understand and whatever, because it's a mix of HTML and JavaScript. Okay, this is not like pure JavaScript. Okay, so this variable that we want to track, okay, for toggling the visibility of this button on and off, this one, okay, we are going to use this value to check that. But if we want to change the value inside this, we are going to use this function here, set visibility, and pass a value. Okay, and then the initial value inside here, we are going to say it's hidden. Hence, when you visit this code or this page for the first time, this variable here there is hidden. Okay, that's why it's hidden. As you can see, it's not there, but now it will change because we are keeping track of it. Remember, React will always react to the changes that are happening on the UI. So because this change has happened, we are using React to react to the change that has happened. As you can see, now we are showing it. Okay, so meaning that this state variable which has got hidden by default. Okay, where is it? State variable, here is it, set visibility. Okay, this visibility, okay, by default it has got hidden. Okay, but now once you press something on this input, okay, once you press something on this input, you are also affecting this visibility. This is going to be visible based on, is there a text here? That means it's visible, or there is no text. When there is no text, it's not visible. Okay, so that means this will change. It's either it's going to be hidden or it's going to be nothing. Okay, and then let's see. Okay, obviously this item, this clear button, you can click it, and when you click it, what it does, it clears everything here. Once this box is clear, this must disappear. So it's more like by clicking here, you are clearing this box. In doing so, trying to clear this box, you are hiding this item because it only shows when there is something. So this event does two things. Number one, it's clearing this, but at the same time removing this from being visible, as you can see. Okay, not really, it's okay. Okay, this is some sort of obviously a code error, because once you clear here, okay, once you clear here, as you can see, this is cleared. Suppose this button does what? It disappears. Okay, this is something that I can work on to improve this functionality, because it was supposed to work that way. But now let's take it for what it does now. Okay, so meaning that once you click here, what it does, it clears this text that is in here. How it does that? Okay, let's quickly jump straight to it. So this is the div. Okay, we are clear about this. It sets the visibility based on whatever criterion. Okay, on click. Okay, this is an on click event. Okay, and then on click event, this is just a JavaScript function. Okay, and then we are calling set input value to nothing. Okay, that means this is the input value that we are setting to nothing. Let's go and check this function set input val. As you can see, we are coming here, which is, this is the set input val. Okay, this is some sort of a state variable that we are setting to nothing, meaning that this state input value, okay, here is it on the input. Okay, the value that is here on the input, as you can see, this is the value that is here on the input. Okay, so once this function is called set input val, okay, we are going to a state variable, which is set input val, and we are assigning an empty string to it. Once we assign an empty string to this value, React automatically updates here, which is on this actual input value, which means it must be empty. As you can see here, value is empty. So if this value is null, please assign. If this value has got something, put it as it is. But if it's null, meaning that when you are rendering for the first time, if this value is null, then just put an empty string. So that's why when we are clicking here, this becomes empty. It's simply because we are updating a state variable. Okay, here is a state variable. If we set empty string to this state variable, okay, this state variable automatically updates, and inside this input text, it becomes that empty thing, as you can see. Okay, obviously I don't expect this to be some sort of simple and easy to understand, but it carries some sort of main core concept of React and how it works, and also how it makes your life easier. Obviously for now, if you are used to normal HTML and JavaScript, this looks or seems like a nightmare, but if you some sort of play around it, you get an understanding of what is going on, and also how these states variable changes automatically, meaning that as soon as you change this input val, it also changes. Okay, now enough about complicated explanation. Let's just try now to do a final round, hoping that I will tie things together. We will understand exactly and clearly how now this system works. Okay, so as soon as I load it, this is hidden. Why this is hidden? Remember, there is a state variable that checks for this visibility. And which state variable is that? It's this one, the visibility. This variable, by default, it has got hidden. Where is it sitting? It's sitting on that clear button. And as you can see here on the classes, it's hidden. So meaning that if this CSS class name is hidden, this is not supposed to be shown. Okay, Perfect. And then from then, once you type something, meaning that this state changes, what changes this to be visible? Okay, let's quickly trace that. Okay, on input, that means on change. Once this input changes, we are calling this function visibility check. Just by looking at this function, it checks for the visibility, meaning that are we going to show the visibility? Is this visibility going to be hidden or shown? Okay, let's just quickly go to this function. When we go to this function visibility check, it sets the input, meaning that whatever that was typed in the input value, it sets it to this state variable. So meaning that it's updating this input value. Okay, whenever this input value is being updated, okay, it also updates here. Okay, as you can see, it also updates here. Okay, it also updates here only, né? Yes, okay, it also updates here only, and that is it. Okay, and then from there, once we click something here, okay, as we have said, once we click something here, okay, this input value will update. So meaning that the value of this input box will be what we have entered as it is, meaning that it updates automatically. If we put y, it will be this y because it's what we've entered. It's more like it's saving it. Okay, now what we want to do, we want to check how does this and this, like some sort of interacts together, because the more we delete and we delete here, as you can see now, once this one is empty, this visibility is gone. Okay, let's now check that on input. On change, we are checking the visibility check. Okay, and then we set the input value. That's not a problem, but now what we want to check is how this visibility changes when this is empty. Okay, let's check. Okay, this is visibility as it is. Okay, let's see. Okay, on visibility check, as you can see, on visibility check, we don't only end here on setting the input. However, we go on also another step on line 16, event.target.value, then set visibility check empty or set visibility check hidden. Okay, this is the step that I think I have missed, okay, which is I didn't reach. Okay, so let me just show you here. Once I press something, this will show. How does it show? Okay, when you click here, you press M, we go to the visibility check. We know that this event carries everything. We set the input to the actual M that we have pressed, and then we continue to say if the event has got a value. That means if it has got a value, which is this event.target.value, it's true, then we set visibility to none, else set visibility to hidden. Okay, obviously I've used the wrong word here to set we set visibility to none, but let's just quickly run through it. If this is true, if there is a value here, do we have a value here at the moment? This is M. Yes, we have a value, meaning that this statement is true, because if we don't have a value, we've got null, it will be false. If that's the case, go to set visibility, which is this is set visibility, set it to empty string. That means remove hidden. That's what this means. Okay, that means we are going to go here, set visibility, we are going to remove hidden. That means on this input, on this one, we are removing hidden. That means it's going to be shown. As you can see here, once there is something, there is M, it's shown. But what if there is nothing? Okay, then the check visibility will be triggered, everything will happen until we reach this stage again. Check here. Is this empty, true or false? At the moment it's empty, which is true. Let me ask it in a way that will make sense to this. Okay, if this has got a value, is that true? This will happen if it's true. That means it will be visible. But now, does this have a value? Meaning that that's false. That means we are not going to execute this. We are going to execute what? We are going to execute this. That means if there is no value, then set the visibility to hidden, meaning that this visibility will be hidden. Okay, so this is called a ternary operator. This works the same as asking some sort of is this. So this is more like an if else statement, but it's a shortcut to it. Let me just give you an idea of what might be a normal JavaScript function. If this is equal to empty, then do this, else do that. Okay, this will be the same as if this is true, meaning that there is something in it, then set the visibility to visible by removing the hidden class. Else, okay, else copy this, else do this. This is normal JavaScript. Okay, this is normal Java. So this line is exactly the same as this line. Okay, from here to here. Okay guys, for me, Matthew Msingati, that's about it. Obviously, this was not a quick and an easy to explain kind of a concept and a tutorial, but I hope you have learned something or two on how React.js works. So the takeaway from this video, for me personally, this is what I will say to you. Number one, master your CSS and understand it very well, because the CSS that we are applying here, I think it's here on Global CSS, it's like your normal CSS, nothing more, nothing less. It's like your normal CSS, meaning that even on React, CSS is still CSS. If you want to continue with pure CSS, just like the way I did here, because here I only use CSS, I didn't use Tailwind CSS. So meaning that please make sure that you master CSS, because React still use CSS, and also it still uses your basic HTML. Master that one. Number two, understand your JavaScript. At least have a basic understanding of JavaScript. Then after that, React, it's a combination of HTML, which is this part, and JavaScript, which is this part. Then React is just a combination of the two, and then you just have to learn a little thing about React states, hooks, and components, and which is, to be honest, it's not that difficult. Even me, I'm still learning React, but once I noticed, or once I realized how it has been arranged and how it does things, it was not that difficult to grasp. Otherwise, for me, Matthew Msingati, see you on the next one. I think on the next video, I will be explaining how I did this slide. So this slide is just CSS and JavaScript. Otherwise, for me, thank you so much. See you on the next one.